Hello everyone. Today we are going to study about osteology. So in osteology we study about bones. Now as you everyone know what is exoskeleton. Exoskeleton is the group of bones which is present on the outer side of visceral cavity like your ribs, your limbs, skull. These are certain exoskeleton, and this exoskeleton is derived from ectoderm. What is ectoderm? As you already know, ectoderm is the outer layer from which exoskeleton is derived. Now there are three germinal layers. Among these three germinal layers, one of the germinal layer is ectoderm, which give rises to exoskeleton. Now moving forward to endoskeleton. Endoskeleton is derived from mesoderm. Now the second germinal layer is mesoderm. From that mesoderm, there is formation of endoskeleton. Like you see in dog's penis we find os penis, so it is a type of endoskeleton, we can say. And endoskeleton is derived from mesoderm and exoskeleton is derived from ectoderm. So moving forward, now what we are going to study, we are going to study a lot of things today, but let's move to this particular portion, splanchnic or visceral skeleton. In splanchnic or visceral skeleton, we generally study about those bones which are present in the visceral cavity or soft organs, like os penis in the penis of dog, os cordis in the heart of ruminants, os phrenic in the diaphragm of camel, os rostrate in snout of pig, os opticus in eye of fowl. So these were certain terms. Now the most important thing in osteology is bone. Every one of you must be knowing about bone. So bone is a hard calcified connective tissue. It is hard, it is a connective tissue. It connects something to something, that we will study in upcoming minutes. But you have to know that it is a connective tissue which forms the skeleton. And what is the composition of bone? So it consists of some certain organic matter and certain inorganic matter. So you have to remember that inorganic matter is present in more quantity than organic matter. So the ratio of organic matter is 1 to 3 and of inorganic is 2 to 3. Now organic matter in bone, what it consists of? What is the organic matter in bone? So the organic matter in bone is consisted of some fibrous proteins. Now you will ask which fibrous proteins are in organic matter. So these are collagen fiber. So you have to remember that fibrous proteins are organic matter present in bone, and example of such fibrous protein is collagen fiber. Now what this organic matter or fibrous protein give to the bone? It provides the flexibility. Like you have experienced that bones are certainly flexible. They are not so much flexible, but to some extent they are flexible. So reason the bones are flexible is the presence of fibrous protein in them. Okay, this is the reason they are flexible. And this fibrous protein, what is it? It is an organic matter. Now moving forward about inorganic matter which is present in the bone. Now the inorganic matter present in the bone is present in the form of hydroxyapatite crystals. You have to remember these kind of things, that the inorganic matter in a bone is hydroxyapatite crystals. Now this hydroxyapatite crystal, what it gives to bone? It gives it rigidity and hardness. So the rigidity and hardness of a bone is due to the presence of certain inorganic substances. And the example of that inorganic substance is hydroxyapatite crystals. What it provides the bone? The hardness and rigidity. What organic substance in the bone provides? It provides the flexibility. And what inorganic provides? It provides the what? It provides the rigidity and hardness. Now, there are certain things which you have to remember about bone. There are two types of bone structures present. Like if you will take a bone, like here you can see this is a bone. Okay, you can see this is a bone. Now this bone has two regions, this region and this region. If you will see, this region is some sort of soft and this is some sort of hard. So this region is spongy type and this is compact. So this is all about we are going to study compact or dense bone, cancellous or spongy bone. This portion which is spongy like this, you can see it is sponge like, so it is known as cancellous bone or spongy bone. This region which is so much hard is known as compact bone or dense bone. So compact bones, it is hard layer which forms exterior of most of the bones. So most of the bones exterior part is of compact bones to give them rigidity as well as hardness. Now in case of spongy bone consists of bony plates arranged to form network. Spongy bones, you can see these are like this, they're forming this kind of structure, and it occupies the extremities of all long bones and interior of other bones. There are certain bones like ribs. In ribs you will see entire inner length is composed of this spongy bone or cancellous bone, but in this bone, in this particular bone, you can see this particular region is spongy. So spongy bone is present in the extremities. This is extremity of the bone. Okay, now it is a typical structure of a bone. Let me explain you this structure. So you can see here in the extremity, firstly I will tell you about the basic structures of the bone. So remember guys, this particular part is known as epiphysis. This particular part and this particular part is known as epiphysis. Now this region, this whole cylindrical region is known as diaphysis, but it is known as diaphysis or shaft. It is also known as shaft or diaphysis, and this region is known as epiphysis. Okay, this region is known as epiphysis. Now in this particular region of compact bone, there is another layer present which is known as periosteum. Okay, what is the name of the layer which is present in the non-articular region? This is non-articular region and this is articular region. What is the articular region and non-articular region? Articular region is that region through which one bone joins with another bone, and this is non-articular region with in which only muscles are attached. So the layer periosteum is present only in the non-articular region, and inside this cavity is known as medullary cavity. This medullary cavity is lined by endosteum. Okay, this is lined by endosteum. Now there is particular type of plate present here which is present from the stage of development. What is the function of this particular plate? It moves to this particular region, so it grows. So this particular plate is known as epiphyseal plate. What it is known as? Epiphyseal plate. This forms a region which is known as metaphysis. What? Metaphysis. In objective type questions it may be asked that what is metaphysis. So the simple definition which I am going to tell you about metaphysis is that metaphysis is the region between epiphysis and diaphysis, that is known as metaphysis. Now I will explain more about periosteum, which I told you earlier that it is a layer of connective tissue which covers non-articular surface of all the bones. Now one thing I have to tell you that this periosteum has further two layers. Now we have this outer fibrous layer. You can see in this particular diagram, this is outer fibrous layer, and the second one is inner osteogenic layer. This is inner osteogenic layer or cellular layer. What this cellular layer does, it forms certain cells which are responsible for the development of bone, and this is the fibrous layer. Okay, as we study what this fibrous layer provide, maybe the flexibility. Like you can say fibrous layer contains fibers, mainly collagen fiber, and gives attachment to muscles. It gives attachment to muscles also. Now the cellular layer, it contains bone cells. As I told, it is responsible for the development of the bone. I mean the growth of the bone. So what we studied here, we studied about periosteum. What is this periosteum? This is a layer around non-articular surface of the bone. It has two further layers: outer fibrous layer, which consist of certain fibrous proteins like collagen fiber, and the inner osteogenic layer or cellular layer, which contains bone cells. Now endosteum, what was this endosteum? It covers the medullary cavity. As I showed you, this was the medullary cavity and the layer surrounding it was endosteum. Okay. Now, there is a particular term known as bone marrow. This yellow region which you are showing in medullary cavity is bone marrow. Now, what is this bone marrow? You might have studied in your plus 2 that it generally form RBCs, and it also contains fat. The extra amount of fat is stored in bones also in the form of bone fat. Okay, and that particular bone fat is technically known as yellow bone marrow. Okay, now bone marrow form of a connective tissue present in the interior of bones. It not only fills the medullary cavity of long bones but also spaces of spongy tissue. Now those cancellous bones which are present in the extremities of a long bone, like here, this is the extremity of the bone. What type of bone would be present here? Cancellous. Now in these regions sometimes we may find what? Bone marrow also in this region. Okay, now bone marrow, we generally have three types of bone marrow. We generally see three types of bone marrow. The first one is red bone marrow. Now why I am discussing this red bone marrow? First, because it's an important thing. Now red bone marrow contains cells which are precursor for RBC. Now what it means? That means the region where red bone marrow is present, in that particular region there is more production of RBCs. Like you may have learned that in fetus as well as in newborn, this particular red bone marrow acts as hemopoietic organ. Hemopoietic organ means it forms RBCs. In adults even, there are certain flat bones, short bones, extremities of long bones like sternum and vertebra, which are responsible for the production of RBCs. Now the next important bone marrow is yellow bone marrow. It mainly possesses fat. Okay, and it is also known as bone fat. Now the third, and it may seem new to you, gelatinous bone marrow. It is seen in aged animals or chronic ill animals. You may know this term, chronic ill. Chronic ill animals are those animals which are having a particular disease for a long time, and they are nourished animals also have this gelatinous bone marrow. Now these are certain bones diagrams which I will discuss after this classification of bones, but we will study this classification in the upcoming lectures. So thank you.